There will be some overlap, Sarah, of 2.5 months or so before David officially becomes CEO, and then another few months with Lloyd as chairman, David as CEO before David takes on both jobs. Right now it seems to be business as usual. They obviously had a kind of a top-heavy morning. They had a quarterly managing directors meeting where they kind of unveiled this transition, and both of them spoke briefly to hundreds of managing directors, both in the room and on video conference. And then they went through earnings, not those two personally, but the company went through earnings. But from what I understand, it's been a pretty quiet day at the firm. They've had business unit meetings. I think David's speaking to interns tomorrow morning. So obviously, we're going to see some power shifts, probably some new initiatives over time, and also existing initiatives perhaps strengthened because David's a believer in them. But I think right now it's surprisingly quiet because this whole thing was pretty well telegraphed.
Kate, what do you think about the likely future strategy at Goldman Sachs? Of course, Harvey Schwartz, who missed out on this role, had a trading background. David Solomon has an investment banking background. Do you think the morale of the traders is lower perhaps at the moment, given all of this transition?
I think it is probably relatively low, Wilf, and that may be less because of the transition than because of what's going on in the guts of the business. I mean, I was looking at some numbers that Mike Mayo at Wells Fargo put together, and it shows that Goldman Sachs has dramatically underperformed all the major banks in both fixed income and equities over the last 5 years, just in percentage terms, by a big margin. Now, this year is off to a more promising start, but a combination of especially banking regulations after Dodd-Frank and changes in the environment and changes in the nature of the customer base, issues in the hedge fund world, which I know you guys will be talking about tomorrow at Delivering Alpha. But all of these things have kind of conspired to make their trading business uniquely challenged. So it's been a really difficult run. On the other hand, though, the firm historically has swung from leadership from people with a trading background to leadership from people with a banking background. And this is yet another shift, I would say. I mean, Hank Paulson, really an investment banker, although he wore a couple of different hats over his career, ending in Treasury Secretary. Lloyd Blankfein, hailing from the commodities business, and now David Solomon, we're back to the banking business.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Gary Cohn left along the way, Wilfred. So who do we keep our eye on? David Faber made the point earlier that Solomon's already in his, 50s? Yeah. So he's not going to be CEO as long as Lloyd Blankfein is CEO. Wilfred, who are you watching?
Yeah,
as whom he might promote?
Who he might promote, which will also give a kind of indication, perhaps, of which direction the bank's going to go. And I'm keen to get Kate's take on this. But these are the sort of four candidates that stand out based on conversations I've had with sources as who could be promoted by David Solomon to be the next president and COO. Stephen Scherr, he heads up all of the consumer bank that they've moved into. John Waldron, he's a co-head of the investment bank. Marty Chavez, who's the CFO, he's got a trading background and a technology background. And Eric Lane, who's the global co-head of the investment management division. I'd say Waldron is probably the front runner that a lot of people talk about, and the question is perhaps who accompanies if there's two promotions. And Kate, I don't know what your take is on that in terms of who you think David Solomon's likely to promote in due course.
I'm hearing the same, Wilf. I mean, Waldron and Solomon go way back together, have run the investment banking division together. And from what I understand, they have just such a close mind share and such a collaborative style that a lot of people think Waldron is a shoo-in. And if there were going to be a sole president, it would be him. However, and this could be just water cooler chatter at the moment, I don't think any final decisions have been made. But the sort of chatter seems to be focusing on the idea of co-presidents once again. That's a model that has worked for them historically, as tension-filled as it can be at times. So maybe Waldron and another person. And I have heard a lot of talk about Stephen Scherr recently. And I know their consumer banking business, while small and nascent, is a real area of emphasis both for Lloyd, for David Solomon as well. So I think we're going to see a push there. And of course, Steve Scherr is the president of Goldman Sachs Bank. He runs that effort from a senior level.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.